The MotoGP season has been successfully launched in Thailand, but the laps that we see here over the next couple of days in Buriram could play a crucial role in the 2025 MotoGP season that we see starting here on the final weekend of February in Buriram. A warm welcome to you. I'm Lewis Sotheby. Joining me is Jack Appleyard. This is After the Flag, the first of 2 days, the final 2 days of pre-season testing before the season gets underway right here in Thailand. 28th of February, 1st, 2nd of March, the Thai Grand Prix, which kicks off a bumper 22-round 2025 season. Jack, as mentioned, joins me for the next couple of days, and the questions that we had in Sepang, of course, were slightly closer to answers. The big questions, I think, particularly down in the camp of the world champions.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the huge talking point, the huge story that we've had running throughout pre-season at the moment. Jorge Martin aside, who, if you are joining us for the first time, if you do live under a rock, will be confirmed as missing the entirety of pre-season. But when it comes to the on-track action, the huge talking point is the massive decision that the KTM have to make. Do they opt for that 2025 engine, or do they stick to what they know? Can they improve on perfection? The indications that we've seen throughout Sepang is that the answer to that question is no, and that they're going to be sticking with the 2024 package that, of course, was so successful last year.
Jack will be speaking to Davide Tardozzi over the course of the next 15 minutes or so. Maybe we'll get an answer from Ducati, because, as you say, you feel that decision really has to be made today. Well, as with Sepang, we will also be getting additional analysis from HQ. Elliot York and Kiko Giles will be bringing us their insights over the course of the next 90 minutes. Guys, what have you got for us over the course of the show today?
Plenty of analysis, Lewis. Hello to you guys over in Buriram. Great to be back again here after the flag. 90 minutes of analysis, interviews, and all the hot headlines going in to 2025. I'm Kiko Giles. Alongside me is Elliot York. Once again, he's still here. He's not run off just yet. El, good to have you back. Sepang was one thing, Buriram's another, and already the storylines have just slightly changed.
Yeah, a little bit of a quiet day, I think, in terms of lap times, sprint sims, time attacks, but plenty to get stuck into, plenty of storylines to follow on from Sepang as well. I think tomorrow is where we're going to get the juicy info, where we're going to really learn everything about pre-season as a whole, but plenty to get stuck into today. Looking forward to it, and the season is drawing near. I'm really excited.
2 weeks until we go lights out in Buriram. That's why this test is so important. We have Sepang that's at the end of the year, and it's our traditional test bed, but Buriram 2 weeks before the round, it doesn't really get much closer to being an accurate test bed to see what we can see. We've had sprint simulations coming in across the course of today. We're expecting a few more tomorrow, so tomorrow will be a lot more indicative of what we can expect to see, but as always, MotoGP not failing to deliver, is it?
Exactly that. It's been a great pre-season. There's lots to learn tomorrow, I think more so than today, so I can't wait to hear some interviews potentially at the end of the day. Fabio Quartararo, I think we're going to get live or a pre-recorded one from Buriram. That's going to be really interesting, because that was a massive story following on from Sepang, how Yamaha could do here in Buriram. So it's going to be an interesting show, especially tomorrow as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Worth noting as well, of course, that Jorge Martin, as the guy said, the trackside is not here. He has been replaced by Lorenzo Savadori, and of course, don't forget Fabio Di Gianantonio. That crash when wheeling at the end of the first day, he's out and has not been replaced. So Frankie Morbidelli is on his own for this test. So two big pieces of news. Raul Fernandez, the other rider who was injured during day one at Sepang, is on track, and he has set a load of lap times. He's done 27, as I look at the screen in front of me. So Raul Fernandez obviously getting back up to fitness. It's so important to get as much data and as many laps out as possible, because we are not going to be long until we're lights out. I mean, this is a really important test.
Huge for Raul to be here, huge for Aprilia to be here, obviously missing the world champion. The development rested solely on Marco Bezzecchi's shoulders, Lorenzo Savadori as well, but Raul is the only other rider in the full-time lineup to have experience on that RSGP, so crucial for Raul to be here, and Aprilia. Good to see him fighting fit, basically. Next couple of weeks he'll hopefully be pretty much fully fit for the Grand Prix, but crucial for Raul to be here. Good to see him out on track.
Well, that's enough from us here in this lovely air-conditioned studio in MotoGP HQ. Back over to the sweat box, which is Buriram. Jack Appleyard and Lewis Sotheby sporting, is it suntans? Kind of, I suppose. Over to you.
Sunburns, I think, after we were out in the heat of the midday sun this afternoon. 35 degrees it was air temperature when we were on the air on our social media channels around about 2.5 hours ago. So, as mentioned, MotoGP launched its 2025 season in unprecedented and unforgettable fashion in the capital of Thailand, Bangkok, over the course of the weekend. Sunday night, Jack, like many, I think, in the MotoGP paddock, head still spinning from what we saw over the course of the weekend. Something that MotoGP has never done before, but I think it's already proven a big hit.
Yeah, a wild whirlwind weekend in Bangkok that will live long in the memory. The packed crowd down at One Bangkok getting an experience like no other. 5 MotoGP bikes warmed up, and I think about 2 or 3 engines blown, which a few technicians, I'm sure, weren't happy about. We also saw a couple of those street bikes expiring as well, as the MotoGP riders fully showed off their skill set and also pushed those street bikes beyond their limits as well. But we love to see it. As you say, Lewis, it was a spectacular event, the first, you imagine, of many, and it was just an absolute honour on a personal note to be a part of it, to be a part of that atmosphere and to experience it firsthand. We've got 22 rounds coming up, which I'm very much excited to be a part of, and a unbelievable 2025 campaign, which is certainly living up to its billing so far. But to kick off 2026 with another launch just like that, I think I'll be very much excited to do it all over again.
It's already got a tough act to follow based on what we saw on Sunday night, and the stars really feel like they aligned, didn't they, for the season to be starting for the first time in terms of a competitive standpoint here in Thailand in 2025 with the Grand Prix here in Buriram in a couple of weeks' time. The fans here in Thailand, fanatical is the word for them. They really do add an extra colour and sound to MotoGP.
Yeah, absolutely. On the Saturday when I landed on my flight across from Kuala Lumpur, headed straight to the LCR Honda launch, and it was there that I got a true image, a true picture of what kind of stardom Somkhiat Chantra has. The number of microphones, the number of cameras that were there to welcome him on a Saturday for his official launch, but then again on Sunday, just the amount of gathered press from Thailand, whether it be national, local, regional, and you have to say across the continent as well. It truly rammed home for the first time what a huge deal it is for Thailand to have their very first MotoGP Premier Class superstar, and that's exactly what Somkhiat Chantra was. That right there, though, Lewis, my favourite moment, because that just showed off the skill set that these MotoGP riders have. When you watch them in line here going at such incredible speed, you don't truly get an understanding of what talent they have. But for Marc Marquez there on a street bike Panigale to have turned off all of the electronic aids, to have it spin it up, a rolling burnout, going sideways, flicking a number 1 in the air, was a goosebump-inducing moment. And it, as I said, just showed off the quality of star that we have on the MotoGP grid this year. You don't often get an indication of the talent, but I think just from them playing around and having fun on these street bikes, you could see it firsthand.
Yeah, I think, Jack, you inhaled a lot of that smoke from Pecco Bagnaia's rear tyre. He was riding
and
the
Jack
slipstream
Miller as well. He was
that.
the worst culprit.
Jack Miller was also at it. So the street cleaners in Bangkok weren't thanking MotoGP's riders, but as Jack says, they certainly are ordinary human beings doing extraordinary things, and we'll be seeing that throughout the season. Well, as the smoke was clearing in Bangkok, the dust was settling on what we saw last time out in Malaysia, the first official test of the season. To dive into the detail of what we saw and also look at what we've seen so far here in the Buriram test, we can cross back to HQ and rejoin Elliot York and first Kiko Giles. Guys, back over to you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, can't stress enough and can't echo your sentiments enough, Jack, about how good that season launch was. I can remember actually just a short side story that when Thailand first held a World Championship event, it was World Superbike back in 2015, Ratapak Willarot won the Supersport race. Most people took Monday off work. It was absolutely remarkable. So the passion, undoubted. Back to actual testing and less of the festival stuff, we do have a very nice graphic comparison that we're going to take you through in just about... there it is, look. So let's move on. This was from Sepang, so this is important to note. It's not from Buriram. We've got all 5 manufacturers that are on the MotoGP grid, Aprilia, Ducati, KTM, Honda, Yamaha. On that side are the gaps from when they were in the test or their previous best lap at Sepang in 2024 or previous, depending, to what they managed in this test. And it gives us a good illustration of exactly who was hot, who's not, who's a bit lost. Let's start with Aprilia. Obviously, story is Jorge Martin not there.
Exactly. This is, I mean, these 2 times here, don't read too much into them. Obviously, Jorge Martin missing, Marco Bezzecchi getting used to a brand new bike, Savadori, of course, and Raul Fernandez, as we mentioned, the only guy who previously had experience in their full-time lineup of the RSGP, missed pretty much all 3 days apart from about an hour in the morning. So Aprilia, I mean, steady going in Sepang. This is why we say the Buriram test is really where we're going to learn so much more about where these factories are at.
At the other end of the scale, we've got Yamaha, 8/10 quicker, L. Now, it's not quite the same story in Buriram, in Buriram, but here in Sepang, it looked good.
Understatement of the year, Kiko. I mean, 8/10 to improve in one test. I think Fabio said they improved 0.6 seconds from 2019 to 2024, and then over this winter, they've managed to gain 0.8 of a second. Incredible stuff in Sepang from Yamaha, but there was cautious optimism from Fabio Quartararo in particular. He didn't want to get too carried away. We were all going to obviously get carried away because that is a magnificent number to improve on. Look how much quicker it is compared to the rest of them. But this is where Yamaha and everyone was saying, this is where we're going to learn more. A low grip track, Sepang, super grippy circuit. Fabio Quartararo loves it there. Yamaha goes pretty well there as well. They had a great GP there last year when they were on the upward trajectory.
Top 10s in qualifying.
Exactly, top 10s in the race as well. So they liked Malaysia last year. Fabio likes it. But Buriram is a different story. Today, he's not quite up there in the timesheets, but I think tomorrow is where we're going to really learn in the sprint sims and the time attacks where Yamaha do stand. But, I mean, this was super impressive. Everyone was impressed. Davide Tardozzi has gone so far to say as Yamaha are going to be their chief rivals in 2025, which is a massive statement to make.
And from Tardozzi as well, the manager of the manufacturer that's won everything.
Exactly. And I think Pecco agreed as well. Fabio is going to be right up there this season. Okay, that may be getting a bit carried away after just one test. Let's see where they are tomorrow, but superb effort from Yamaha.
Don't forget, get your questions in. We'd love to hear from you. One's just coming out. Are Yamaha really back? Can they be competitive throughout the whole season? I think that's what it says. My eyes might deceive me. I have got shocking bins. Are Yamaha back? Hard to say. At Sepang, yes, but they're always there.
Fully back, I think we can answer that tomorrow or after the first couple of GPs. Mm-hmm. After the first 4, once we get back to Europe, I think that's when we're going to learn the most. They're definitely on the way back. They're striding forward. I don't think they're fully back yet. I don't think that is fair to say after just one test at a circuit. They also took part in the shakedown in as well. So 5 test days overall for Quartararo, Rins, Miller and Oliveira. But they're definitely on the way. And I think, hopefully, they can be competitive throughout this season, especially pushing for podiums on a semi-regular basis. Maybe a win for this man, Fabio Quartararo, on screen. Maybe a bit much of a stretch to say that right now, but we're going to learn so much more about Yamaha tomorrow and in the first 4 GPs before we get back to Europe.
And don't forget, qualifying was a massive bugbear for them last year, so they've got to improve in qualifying. The rest of the graphic, we'll talk you through it very, very quickly before heading back to Buriram. Ducati a little bit off, but we knew that was going to happen anyway. The GP24 right there, and on it last year. KTM quicker, Honda quicker, and once again at the Buriram test, at least day 1, Luca Marini able to improve his lap time in comparison to what he was able to do in the Grand Prix towards the end of last year. Lots of invariables, of course. Last year's a different time to this year, and of course, it can rain in Buriram, as we know, but I don't think there's any such luck over there right now. It's time to head back to Buriram, and it's time to rejoin our esteemed colleague, Lewis Sudbury, who is there ready and waiting for the final quarter of an hour of track action.
Yeah, where the lap times are continuing to pile in. And, of course, I was hanging on your every word, guys, as I always do, but I was a little bit distracted outside of our window here because we're right overlooking the main straight, and Turn 5 is just in the background. Turn 5 is where we've just seen Brad Binder go down, the Red Bull KTM factory racing rider. Here's the post-crash footage of it. Here is the South African, as you can see, absolutely fine. We're going down at turn number 5 in the final 15 minutes of the session. At the moment, Brad Binder, when we look at the combined standings from the day, is in 7th place on a 1:30.041. So Brad Binder having a little bit of a tricky end to the day, although KTM have been continuing their hard work over the course of the day to try and put the pieces together to see what kind of KTM RC16 we start the season with. It is very much the modus operandi of KTM in pre-season testing, to experiment, to go through a checklist, to put different pieces together. I was down there in pit lane over the course of the late morning and early afternoon, and they were constantly taking parts from one bike on one side of the garage, moving them onto the other bike, trying different combinations, trying to find the formula that works. And then, of course, once this test is concluded, KTM will have a litany of data to pour through to put together the final machine, which will start this season right here in Buriram in 2.5 weeks. Well, let's turn our attentions to the reigning Constructors and Teams champions. That is, of course, Ducati, and they, of course, did win the Riders' Championship last year, even if the rider that won it for them is no longer in Ducati colours. And, of course, the big decision facing them over the course of the next 24 hours, really, is to decide which engine they're going to be running with over the course of the season. And that's probably the number one topic that will be put to Davide Tardozzi right now. We can cross down to Jack Appleyard in pit lane, who's with the Ducati Lenovo team manager. Jack. Yeah, unfortunately, we can't hear from Jack there. We'll hopefully be able to pick up those questions in just a moment. So as we get to the bottom of those technical gremlins, I think we'll be waiting very patiently and intently to hear what Davide Tardozzi has got to say. We did speak to him at the end of the Sepang test. That was obviously around about a week ago. And it seemed as if they were leaning perhaps more towards the 24 engine. Just to explain why that decision is so important for Ducati, there is going to be a regulation which enforces an engine freeze over 2025 and 2026, unless, of course, you are subject to the Band D concessions, which Yamaha and Honda currently are. So the engine that they start this 2025 season with here in a couple of weeks will have to do both the 2025 season and 2026. No different specifications will be able to be introduced. As a result of that, Ducati do not want to get this decision wrong. Davide Tardozzi said that that decision was perhaps potentially being informed by some conservatism. We think we've got to the bottom of the gremlins now, and we can now both see and hear from Jack, who's with Davide Tardozzi. Jack.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. I think we're now back and running. And the intro that I was giving is that everyone is talking about the decision that Ducati have to make. Davide, I spoke to you earlier today, and you said that today is D-Day. You have to decide whether you go with the 2025 engine or the 2024. So at the end of it, what have you decided?
So far, the decision hasn't taken yet, but it looks that we are going towards 2024. But finally, tonight, Gigi and the engineers will take the final decision. My feeling is that is not decided yet, but that's my feeling so far.
And I imagine that decision is primarily down to the fact that this engine freeze is coming in. There is no need to take over risks when you have such a competitive bike as it is.
Yeah, because as we already said, we will take this decision because mainly because we have to freeze for 2 years, and we don't want to take risk in the next 2 years. So the 2024 engine give us good feedback in the past and reliability. So my feeling is that it will be the decision.
With regards to the aero, I've seen Pecco trying it in Sepang. He's out on it now. I've not seen Marc do a single lap with the 2025 aero. Why is that?
No, because they have different work to do today. Different program. Marc is doing something else. He's also investigated different position on the bike because it seems not perfect comfortable. So he try different ergonomics, handlebars and other things to be sit better on the bike.
And just if I can ask you about the practice start session that we saw at lunchtime as well. It was the first opportunity for me to watch it because normally I'm with the show. Both Marc and Pecco seemed to struggle, and when I spoke to other people on pit wall, they said that that's a common theme. Sepang wasn't particularly easy for the practice starts as well. Why are both of your riders struggling?
I think that one of the problems was that they make the start with the hard tire, but I see also other brand having the same problem. So it seems that there the bike was not really setting the clutch, and the bike was not setting in the proper way. But anyway, I think that as usual, Marc and Pecco will start very well on the next race.
Not a result of any changes to launch control to try and eke out an extra tenth or so?
We are trying different solutions, so something works, something not, but in the end, I think that we have a safe situation.
Thanks, Davide.
Thank you.
So there we go, confirmation from the man himself, as good as the confirmation. He said the decision will be made later on today between Pecco Bagnaia, Marc Marquez and Gigi Dall'Igna, but Tardozzi confirming that Ducati are looking likely to opt for the 2024 engine, and one of our eagle-eyed colleagues, Emilio Vasquez, on Pecco's final exit, had noticed not only has he got the 2025 air with the new additions to the seat, the slightly bigger side pods as well, but on the side of the bike there's a particular yellow sticker there which confirms it had been through scrutineering for 2024 MotoGP, and that can only mean that Bagnaia is doing his last laps today on that 2024 engine, as has Marc Marquez for the entirety of today as well. It's opportunity not only for Franco Morbidelli and Alex Marquez, because they are going to have basically equal machinery, but for every other factory up and down pit lane, the 2025 Ducati is basically going to be at a similar level to the 2024. So if they can find a step, they can definitely get closer to the reigning champions in MotoGP. It's all setting up nicely for an uber competitive season, Lewis.
Yeah, it's a very good point you make, isn't it, about the GP24 runners and the fact that Ducati might well be running the GP24 engine in their GP25 machine this year. That could be music to the ears of the likes of VR46 and Frankie Morbidelli, who's ran very well so far in pre-season testing. You might recall back in the Sepang test, he was regularly up inside the top 3 or 4. So far over the course of this test so far, as you can see, left-hand side of your screens, Frankie Morbidelli in 4th, and of course the time's currently topped by another of those GP24s as Alex Marquez's unbeaten winter continues. Well, it hasn't all been good news so far, has it, for VR46 in pre-season testing? You might recall, of course, that they lost Fabio Di Gianantonio on the first day, or at the end of it, in Sepang with that crash whilst doing a wheelie post-practice start. He is recovering well and is expected to be back for the first race of the season, back here at the end of the month. But to give us a full story on how winter testing has gone so far for VR46, both the rider that's here and the rider that isn't, we spoke earlier on to their team manager, Pablo Nieto.
Obviously, Frankie has a bit of an advantage knowing the bike from last year, so what can we expect from Frankie in the first race and at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, it's very important that Frankie have the same bike that he had last year. The only thing we have to know each other a little bit more better, because we just make three days in Malaysia and now this one. But anyway, of course, the bike is very, very, very good. It's one of the best bikes in the grid, so we have to try to make this advantage for the maybe first 5 races, because of course all the manufacturers will arrive. But anyway, we have to be focused on the first race and try to make a very good race.
And finally, a word on Fabio. Unfortunately, he missed this test, but how confident are you that he can be here for the first GP?
Yeah, he made the operation this weekend in Italy. It's going to be hard to be how he's going to feel with the insurance, with everything, but I think we are very confident that he will come to the first race. But anyway, it's going to be the winter test for him, and then try to be calm.
So staying calm at VR46. Certainly the rider that has stayed clear of injuries is going pretty well so far. Incidentally, while you're hearing the next segment on the Gresini team, keep an eye on the left-hand side of your screens, because Marc Marquez is currently going very, very quickly. He'll just pop behind me in the next 10 or 20 seconds ago. We're expecting him to go top of the pile very, very shortly. Well, as mentioned, from Gresini's point of view, it's been a very good winter so far, hasn't it? With Alex Marquez currently unbeaten in pre-season testing, although it has been far from a perfect day for them here so far in Buriram. If you were joining us for the midday live earlier on, you might have seen the post-crash of Fermin Aldeguer going down in a big way at turn number 8. As mentioned, we were telling you to keep an eye on Marc Marquez's times. He has just gone fastest of all. The fastest time of the day so far, a 1:29.184 for the number 93. That puts him the best part of half a second clear of his younger brother Alex. So Alex Marquez's unbeaten winter record now looks like in some threat, but from a Gresini point of view, there are still plenty of positives. Let's explore some of those now. Back at HQ with Elliot and with Kiko. Back over to you.
No need to worry about pedantics of which Marquez it is, Lewis. It's a Marquez at the end of the day. That time, by the way, guys, 29.184 would have been good enough to put Marc on the second row of last year's grid, and that's on day one here. That's impressive. And whilst we're talking about that Marquez, before we move on to the Alex Marquez variety, Ducati, GP24, it's very hard. I know Pecco said in Sepang that, I finally got a teammate I can work with, and there is absolute qualities to that. But I would imagine Pecco, he knows the bike. He's got about as much out of the GP24 as he can. He'll be wanting an upgrade. Marc, on the other hand, probably not, because it's not going to be too different for him.
I mean, yeah, Marc's had to get used to the GP24 and the GP25, and Pecco will be thinking, I know the GP24 like the back of my hand, and it was interesting in Sepang that they were losing less in acceleration than they were gaining in the braking area, so it didn't really match up to what they wanted, and we know how good Pecco is in the braking zone. That's his real strong point in MotoGP, the best braker I think in MotoGP at this moment in time. A lot of his rivals say that as well, so very, very interesting dynamic to hear that they're probably leaning towards the GP24 engine, because they've maximised pretty much the potential of that engine. Who knows where they could have gone with the 2025, but obviously it's a massive gamble to go with. If they're not quite up to scratch compared to the GP24 engine, then you've got to stick with it for 2 years, and that's a massive gamble to take, and it gives these guys, Alex Marquez, Franco Morbidelli, a great opportunity.
Look at this. These are the fastest Sepang sprint simulations. So what we've got here, the average lap time from all of the sprint simulations, unfortunately, because that would mean putting about 70 lap times on, we can't actually bring you the sprint simulation itself, but this is what the average lap time was. Now look who's on top here. It is a Marquez. It's Alex Marquez from his brother, 28 thousandths of a second here. Fabio Quartararo going great guns in Sepang, Bagnaia fourth, and Aldeguer, now that's an interesting one, fifth, but 4 Ducatis in the top 5, 1, 2 GP24s for sure, Elliot. So now that's the interesting bit of where we're going with all this.
Correct. And Alex Marquez, apart from probably today after his brother Marc has just gone about 6 tenths quicker, tops the Barcelona test and topped the Sepang test. He was 4 tenths quicker than he was in qualifying at the Barcelona test compared to the Solidarity GP. And then he was 8 tenths quicker than he went in qualifying compared to the Malaysian GP in Sepang. So Alex Marquez has been ultra competitive. He knew straight away when he jumped onto that GP24 that it was just much better suited to his riding style, especially in the braking zone, where a lot of the riders on the GP23 last year, Alex Marquez, Marco Bezzecchi to name a couple of them, were struggling in the corner entry on the side grip of the front tyre. So that's immediately giving Alex Marquez much more confidence, and we can see from pre-season testing. Intrigued to see what Marquez's tyres were and his fuel load was. Hopefully we can get an interview with Marc to see how much he pushed on that lap. Clearly quite a lot. And it'll be interesting to see if Alex Marquez, how much he pushed as well. Tomorrow, this is really enticing for tomorrow to see where the GP24 riders line up compared to the GP25s of Pecco and Marc, because Alex Marquez has been going great guns so far. The GP25 is meant to be a little bit of a step forward, but the same engine. It's a really interesting dynamic, and as we've said before, it gives these guys a great opportunity to maximise what they've got, while the GP25 riders are still working out sort of aerodynamic parts as well.
Don't forget, get your questions in, get your comments in, let us know your thoughts, join the conversation and have your say. Is Alex Marquez one of the underdogs for 2025? Yes, I would say so. I mean, okay, the GP24, it is the bike that has all the data. It has all that engineering insight from the factory. It's passed on down to the Gresini team. The Gresini guys, they've had that Marc Marquez input over the last year. They've won races. They know the bike. So this, I mean, if Ducati are staying with the GP24 spec engine, which it sounds like they're going to do, this is going to be very, very interesting, because it's really the first time we're going to see on competitive machinery what Alex and Marc can do on the same stuff.
Yeah, exactly that. And it gives these guys a great opportunity, especially in the first few races, to really begin the season really well. Franco Morbidelli, Alex Marquez especially. Obviously, Fermin Aldeguer is a rookie, so we're not going to expect too much from Fermin, although he was very impressive in Sepang as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see what these guys can do. Hit the ground running, and then who knows, they can get a couple of wins under the belt and try and keep pace with Marc Marquez and Pecco, who we're expecting obviously to be the two main title contenders.
And don't forget, for Alex and Fermin, this is a huge upgrade. In the case of Fermin, he's a rookie, so it doesn't really matter. But Alex, this is an upgrade, so he's going to find the limit, but he'll know where it is. Marc and Pecco are going to have to push the limit to what they know. And that's the important thing with where we're really going with all this, is because there's a phrase in business, when you stand still, you go backwards. I'm not going to say that Ducati are going to go backwards, but they're going to not have it as easy as they perhaps had in the past. Right, enough from the studio. But don't forget, fans, MotoGP, it is the world's most exciting sport, and in 2025 we are faster forward and fearless. So to get a taste of what's to come, check out the documentary behind the scenes. There can be only one.
The world's fastest riders are ready to hit full throttle once again. MotoGP is back. The party starts right here and now. Is this frenetic battle between Bagnaia and Marquez?
Non è né colpa tua né colpa mia, ma tutti e due a terra.
Shark attack. It's the rookie sensation Acosta.
That's bad.
It's a race win behind Martin.
Hay que ganar.
Vamos. 3 names for the most coveted seat in MotoGP.
Calici perché io c'ho la mia.
Magic Maverick Vinales, the top gun, is back on top.
We don't give up until we reach the very top of this class.
Honestly, I would be off in KTM's position if they manage to lose him.
Masterpiece from world champion Pecco Bagnaia. Whoa! Here comes Marc Marquez, one of the greatest comebacks in Grand Prix history. But here comes Martin with the element of surprise.
There are more title contenders than ever, but there can be only one.
And who will be the one in 2025? That is the question that we're going to try and propose an answer to over the course of the next 24 hours, but the answer will only truly be given when we get to the end of 22 Grand Prix weekends, culminating in Valencia at the end of the year. Well, as the sun starts to set behind us, that hasn't stopped one or two riders heading out for some practice starts, as is customary at the end of a day of testing. Now, this isn't the first practice start session of the day. We did see some a little bit earlier on. Before we show you what they're up to, let's take a look at how this first day in Buriram shook out. And as you saw and heard in those final 10 minutes or so of the day, it was Marc Marquez who ended the day on top. A 1:29.184 for the 6-time MotoGP world champion, put him half a second clear of his younger brother Alex, who is potentially under threat now of his unbeaten winter run. Frankie Morbidelli on the second of the GP24's third, from Marco Bezzecchi on the Aprilia fourth. We did see a Honda inside the 129s today. That was Luca Marini. Joan Mir just missing out on a 130 flat. Then come the two factory Yamahas of Alex Rins and Fabio Quartararo, who didn't quite scale the dizzy heights of Sepang just yet, at least. Fermin Aldeguer, who had that crash at turn 8 midway through the afternoon. He was still top rookie, though, ahead of Ayagura. Enea Bastianini, no sign of the light at the end of the tunnel yet for Tech 3's new signing, Maverick Vinales. His teammate was just behind in 18th place. Raul Fernandez was back in action today. As you can imagine, don't expect too much from him at this stage as he recovers and returns from his injury. 19th ahead of Songkyak Chantra with so much home support here. And this is just testing, completing your 21, who ran today, Lorenzo Savadori, who continues to deputise for the injured world champion, Jorge Martin. So Jack Appleyard has rejoined me up here in the studio to chew the fat for a little bit on what we've seen on this first day in Buriram. Marc Marquez with a little bit of a show of strength in that final 10 minutes, putting half a second into the rest of the field, but just as revealing as that were the comments of Davide Tardozzi to you around about 10 minutes ago.
It might be a GP24, but Marc Marquez can still put a pretty good lap time in.
I was about to say, they might not have upgraded the engine, but it's their biggest upgrade, the rider on the bike.
I mean, that is going to raise eyebrows up and down pit lane. That, for me, right there, is the first time, I think, throughout pre-season that Marc Marquez has gone out and has started to just show what he's capable of doing. I don't think that he will have been anywhere near 100% there. He's had a day where he's been trying all kinds of different items, all kinds of different parts to try and just find how this GP25, or I don't even know what we call it, if it's got the 24 engine, then 24.5, whatever we do end up calling it, try and find this Desma Sedici for 2025, some kind of direction. But that lap time's good. It's very good, because track conditions today are not ideal. There's not a lot of rubber down. It has been very, very hot out there as well. Yes, he's done it in the final half an hour, where, for obvious reasons, with the sun setting, as you can see now, we're in dusk here in Buriram, the track temperature has lowered, but that's fast. It really is. No one's got anywhere near that today. No one's looks likely of dipping into the 28s at all. And then suddenly, like that, with the click of the fingers, this man, Marc Marquez, let's see if he can get this practice start sorted. That's his best one today. I'll give him that. That's a much better.
By a considerable distance, I would say.
Which Davide Tardozzi did confirm. They were trying some things, and clearly the things that they tried didn't work. But yeah, that, for me, that's the first big sign that Marc Marquez has flexed his muscles. And as you say, very, very interesting comments from Davide Tardozzi. He basically confirmed we're running the 2024 engine in 2025. They're going to sit down tonight, Gigi, Mark, Pecco, but the fact that he's come out and said that, the fact they've done all of their work today on the 2024 bike, indicates that they're sticking with what they know.
Yeah, it's just way too high risk a decision from Ducati's point of view, and despite the advantage that they had at the end of last season, they are not taking that for granted. Not for a second. So they're being very careful to make the right decision, because that decision is baked in for 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So we covered it in Sepang, when you've got a bike that won 19 of the 20 Grand Prix, when it is so close to perfection, how can you improve that? And it's quite evident they can't improve on that. Maybe the GP24 will go down in history as the greatest motorcycle that ever graced MotoGP, because they've tried to improve it this year and so far have been unable to do so.
Well, we're going to swap one Jack out for another, I think, in just a moment. Jack Miller is just standing by to come and join us.
I hope that Jack doesn't give me the same farewell that he did on entrance into Paddock earlier.
It's not a farewell, that was a g'day.
Oh, is that how you say g'day in Australia?
Oh, yeah, the special mates.
Thank you. Anyway, I'll give you the microphone. I'll let you dive in there, Jack.
I'll jump in the middle.
Yeah, Jack, thank you very much for joining us. An upgrade as far as the Jacks are concerned here in the studio. Talk us through your day then. Top Yamaha at the end of the day. How would you sum up your first day in Buriram after, of course, plenty of days of testing in Sepang?
Yeah, it's nice to have a change of scenery first and foremost. No, the bike's working really well. I was pleasantly surprised once we got underway here in Buriram. You know, the track was quite considerably different to what we left in Sepang, with a track that was pretty much painted with Michelin rubber to here being really dusty, and probably hadn't been used since we were here at the end of last year. So was happy to get out pretty early on this morning and wobble around in the dusty conditions, just understand how the bike works. I mean, when you're learning a new bike, you're trying to be a bit of a sponge, and try it in all different conditions and understand what sort of feedback she's giving you. But no, happy. Our base setting from Sepang seemed to be working pretty well here from the get-go. Obviously, some little adjustments here, there, and everywhere to fine-tune the bike, and I think we got a little bit more left in it tonight. But we'll try and get it ready for tomorrow and go again.
Yeah, just explain for the viewers the differences between the circuit, of course, that we tested out in Sepang, the kind of challenges that provides for rider and machine. And coming to here, first half of the lap here is very stop and go, a lot of straight up and down braking and heavy acceleration onto long straights. How does that challenged you and the bike differently, and how has the bike responded to that?
Yeah, well, like I said, we came here basically off the back of the Sepang test with that base setting. I mean, that's all we've got to go with. So I was really happy because, like you say, the track is quite considerably different to what we were riding in Sepang. The layout, the whole style of it, and the base setting was working from the get-go. Obviously, the team adjust spring rates accordingly. You're on the brakes a little bit harder and probably don't need as much pitching here. So just change the springs over to kind of suit what they feel ballpark's going to be. And yeah, no, really happy with the performance of the bike. Being able to, the Yamaha turns well. There's no hiding that fact, and being able to really pick your line at turn one and focus and try to flow through and carry that speed on a straight is definitely handy. And for example, through the middle sector, it's a lot of fun through there. You can really line it up and get the thing flowing, and it's a lot of fun. But in general, the bike's working pretty well. We're a little bit down on top speed, but that could just be me not tucking in. I don't know how many K's in there on the engine as well. She did a lot of time, or a lot of days in Sepang and a lot of laps. Obviously, just trying to learn that. So. And the boys are working really hard to get us our engines for the main race. So it could be just a simple fact that the engine's getting to the end of its life and she's getting a bit tired.
We spoke at the launch back in Kuala Lumpur a couple of weeks ago about how this is something of a homecoming for you in 2025. Of course, having spent some of your early years after the initial year at Marc VDS, you spent a lot of time, of course, with Pramac. Of course, a very different Pramac to the team that you left. Of course, they've won the World Championship since you left, and of course now, with Yamaha rather than Ducati. Does it feel like home again? How quickly did it feel like home again?
Yeah, now they're stuck again with me, so I don't know if it's an upgrade or a downgrade, but anyway, it was sideways. But no, it's awesome to be back with Pramac, back with my old crew. A lot of familiar faces there and a lot of fun, so extremely blessed to be a...
Bless you.
I've been struggling with the hay fever all day, but no, it's awesome to be back there and... Excuse me. Yeah, keen to get going and see what we can do, obviously, once we go racing. Did starts today. We've got the Yamaha pretty good off the line. I'm pretty happy with where we're at now with that. So hopefully all our ducks are in line. We need to work a little bit more on time attacks tomorrow as well as sprint sim, but it's not over yet, but we're getting closer.
Getting closer. Well, thanks very much for your time. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll let Jack go and blow his nose. Thank you very much for joining us as the hay fever kicks in once again. We can head back to Barcelona now for some extra analysis. Elliot and Kiko, back over to you.
Cheers, Lewis, and get well soon to young Jack Miller over there. And he is looking young. I say that for a reason.
Yeah.
He's on a bike he loves. He's looking happy again.
He does look happy, yeah. He looks raring to go for the season. Obviously, last year was real disappointment for Miller. He didn't kick on after a positive first year in KTM. Didn't kick on last year. Obviously, lost his ride to Acosta, and understandably so. So yeah, great to see him smiling and happy on the Yamaha, because after the Barcelona test, it didn't look that way at all.
This Acosta is the one who replaces Jack this year. Now, let's have a look. I'm going to talk you through what we've got on screen for you. Enea Bastianini sprint average lap time, 1:29.956. That was from last year's Grand Prix. Okay, last year's Grand Prix weekend. 1:30.924. Now, that was the best KTM in Buriram last year's sprint race. That's the sprint average lap time. That was by Brad Binder. As you can see, nearly a second difference. Huge difference. This year, now, this has slightly changed. We didn't have time to update this graphic, but I can tell you this has gone down a little bit more still. This is Pedro Acosta from today, 1:30.522. That's his average over a course of about 10 or 11 laps in his sprint simulation today. And I can tell you now that actually it's about a 1:33.35. So, again, another couple of tenths taken off. This is promising for KTM. I know the conditions are different and with all those variables we've already spoken about, but signs of movement in the right direction.
Yeah, conditions are difficult, but much better than they were in the Grand Prix last year, as we're told. So to cut that down by 0.4 of a second compared to KTM last year in the sprint is a job well done. Promising signs. Let's not get too carried away, of course. It's still miles off, let's be fair, from Ducati and Enea Bastianini's sprint winning average time from 2024, but Ducati were operating on a completely different level to everyone else, as we saw in Buriram last year. So positive signs so far, as you said. A couple of tenths he shaved off that average lap time as well, but it was done later in the day. This was done pretty much around about when the sprint is going to be in a couple of weeks' time. So really interesting from KTM. We're going to get more tomorrow, so that's going to be interesting to properly delve into as well. But yeah, promising signs after a low-key Sepang test, it has to be said.
Another thing to consider we've not spoken about, obviously the Grand Prix last year at the end of the year. Well, we haven't even had a Grand Prix this year, and Pedro's new in the team. Okay, his crew chief's moved with him, and he knows the RC16. But what I'm saying is, all year to get to that and get that feeling with the bike, not all year with this one.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why it's promising signs. Baby steps, I think we can probably call it. A good chunk off compared to what we saw a few months ago in Thailand, so that's promising stuff. And again, we're going to see tomorrow what everyone's really made of. We heard from Miller there. He's aiming to do a sprint sim and some time attacks. I think everyone at the end of the test is going to do that to see where they stack up compared to their rivals, to get a true feeling of where everyone is. But promising signs from Acosta. He's obviously gelling with that KTM now. They tried so many different variables in Sepang. That's what KTM do. They bring a whole heap of testing parts to Sepang, spend those 3 days trying to work out the best direction, and you feel like they've just got it nailed in terms of the direction they want. Obviously, fine-tuning still to do in terms of aero and the setup, etc. But this is a good sort of sign as to where they might be able to stack up compared to the rest.
And of course, this is an average, so that means that lap times were faster, they were slower. So that's what we get when we add it all up and divide it by the number of laps. Got a question coming in. Pedro Acosta is looking good here. Will he be able to win in 2025? He came close last year. A pole in Bezzecchi, podiums throughout the year. Couldn't quite get that win, Noel. Let's be honest, the Ducati's still the package to be on, particularly the GP24. And if they are going to run the GP24, the Ducati Lenovo team, that means there's a lot more competition in terms of trying to get that first win. It's going to be difficult, but if anyone can in KTM, judging by pre-season testing, it looks like it's the Shark.
I think the answer is yes. I think most people would agree Acosta should and will get at least one victory this year. He's a super talent, the new Marc Marquez, as people dubbed, and he doesn't like being called that, but he's that sort of talent, Pedro Acosta, a two-time world champion already. Generational talent, exactly the phrasing that we should be using about this rider here. So yes, I think he will get a win. Challenge for the title is a different story. I'm not sure KTM so far have caught up to Ducati that much. No one has. To be able to really challenge them across a season, that's yet to be seen, of course, but as I said, promising signs on day one of the test. Tomorrow is where we're going to learn so much more about KTM and the entire field before we come back to Buriram for round one.
Now, Acosta, obviously the top KTM, Binder within the top 10. Can't say the same for Tech 3. Been a very difficult pre-season, even though Hervé Poncharal saying, despite everything that's gone in and KTM off track, pretty normal pre-season for those guys. But it is a world champion lineup on the other side of the fence as well, to say. And it's just not gelled yet for Enea Bastianini, neither Maverick Vinales.
Not quite. We heard from both of them at the end of the Barcelona test. Maverick was really happy with his feeling, actually, on the RC16 after the initial one-day test in Barcelona. They've not hit the ground running, let's be fair. They were both 1.3, 1.5 seconds off in the Sepang test, both over a second off currently in the Buriram test as well. Let's see where they stack up tomorrow, but it's been a difficult pre-season. We don't quite know how much they've pushed on time attacks and the sprint sims as well. So this is, I mean, it's a super team to have as your satellite team. 17 wins between them, both world champions, both a heap of podiums you can see here between them as well.
These are just Premier class, by the way.
Exactly,
hence
the Premier class. World titles. So, look, two of the top riders last year, both in the top 7. It was always going to be difficult, especially for Enea jumping from the best bike on the grid to a struggling KTM, let's call it, potentially. And for Maverick, it's just a different motorcycle, of course, from the Aprilia. So, yeah, it's been slow going, but you don't want to draw too many conclusions.
Testing
is testing. And we're going to learn a lot more about them come race 1 and across the first couple of races into Europe. I think then we can really draw conclusions as to where these guys are going to be sort of around this year. But yeah, it's been a struggle, but I'll hold out positive signs.
And the other problem is, as we just said, GP24 is going to be more of them on the grid. That's the race-winning bike at the minute. Yamaha regardless of where they are right now, have made a step. So it's a lot of competition out there for Maverick Vinales and Enea Bastianini. Question in, if Bastianini and Vinales don't find a step here, is it concerning for them? Yes and no. You want to be finding steps in Testinel, but the first 4 rounds are odd ones. We go racing in Buriram, odd track, not been there many times. We go off after that. Argentina weren't there last year. Kota, really bumpy, always something happening there. It's your one event of the year where it's a bit wide open. Think back to Alex Rins winning on the Honda 2 years ago, Vinales last year on the Aprilia, and then Qatar night race. So the first 4 rounds, it's going to be very difficult to read anything into what we're seeing throughout testing on all the bikes.
And this is why people say the season doesn't really start until we get to Jerez, the start of the European season. Tracks everyone knows like the back of the hand, especially Jerez. As you say, the first 4 races, very strange conditions, very technical tracks, different to what we get into Europe. So as soon as they get into Europe, a track like Jerez, that's where we're going to see these 2 riders and plenty of other riders who are seemingly struggling so far in pre-season testing, really where they stack up compared to the rest of them.
And another thing that often isn't spoken about is actually the tracks away from Europe. Actually, the actual surface has a different aggregate. I remember talking to Garrett Gerloff about this over in the World Superbike paddock. One of his hardest adaptations beyond different tyres was actually the track is different. The track is completely built in a different way. The run of the track is different. So that's something that is exactly why we can't quite get on board with that, what we're seeing in testing. I think we're ready to head back to Buriram, so we'll stop waffling on and playing for time. I know we're not going to go back to Buriram. We're going to go to Tech 3's team manager, Nicolas Goyon, who's going to be able to fill us in on exactly how their pre-season testing is going and whether or not we can read anything into it. So let's hear from him now.
Well, it goes without saying that it's not so obvious at the moment. It would be a lie to tell that we are targeting a podium or top 5. No, but clearly tomorrow we'll try to make maybe not a full race, but like a sprint simulation. We'll try to play a little bit with different tires. So I believe the lap time will improve clearly. But at the moment we are not in the position to fight for the top positions.
Well, that's clear from testing, I think, fair enough. Not clear to fight for top positions. But we knew that was always going to be the case because KTM bring all their parts to the last test of the year and then assemble.
Exactly. Not fighting for podiums and victories and top 5 straight from the off. I don't think many people would have expected that anyway. Obviously, Tech 3 were hoping for that. These 2 riders, of course, as well. But it's going to take a little bit longer for them to adapt properly to the RC16. Pedro Acosta and Brad Binder, they're the 2 that KTM will be pushing and hoping that can challenge for podiums wins straight from the off. It's going to take these 2 a little bit longer. Hopefully we see these 2 great talents up there after the first few races. Even in the first few races, who knows? But it's going to be a lot longer to see these guys, you feel, challenging for podiums, victories and top 5s, as Nico Goyon just said there.
Well, I don't think we'll have to wait too long. Going to tell you something we're not going to have to wait too long for. Max Bartolini is in our circuit set with Lewis Sotheby. He's there ready and waiting. Enough of us. Over to you guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Welcome back to Buriram. And as you mentioned, we've been joined by a special guest. Yamaha's technical director, Max Bartolini, has joined us. Thanks very much for coming up to speak to us. First of all, give us your overall summary of your first of 2 days of testing here in Buriram.
Okay, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. Good evening or whatever to everybody. The first days of test was, as you can see from the result, difficult for us. We test many other items. And as expected, this is quite a difficult track for us because, as you know, our bike is quite grip related. It's a problem we are trying to fix. But we find some small improvement and some good point. And we struggle a little bit with also make the tires work, but I think like everybody else, so nothing really crazy. And at the moment, today we're still analyzing that and see the results of today. But in terms of pace, it doesn't seem too bad. There's a fast lap. Clearly, we can do better.
Yeah, you mentioned the conditions here, and of course, I guess the circuit layout perhaps not so suited to the characteristics of the Yamaha M1. How much of what you saw today was expected? Of course, we did see a tremendous week for Yamaha. Of course, you had the 3 days extra testing before the official test began, which we cannot discount. But were you expecting a tougher challenge here?
Yeah, we was expecting everybody, including the riders, quite a tough, challenging year, and also we get here for sure. We had the advantage to run more days, but we also get more tired, so it's quite normal. And this is quite a engine track and yes, a grip-related track because of the tires also that we have. So we know we need to balance our bike here a little bit better than in other track. In any case, we have to recover the gap that in Sepang was a little bit better, but I think also due to the track condition and also because we have 3 days of test in advance. And there we are trying to cover again, to improve again in that direction, the bike.
Some have suggested over the course of this winter that perhaps the Yamaha has rediscovered some of its DNA that it's had over the previous years, because of course it was known for so many years as such a very well turning bike, but perhaps that wasn't as big a strength in the last couple of years. Do you feel you've now rediscovered that?
We try to use also that characteristic of the bike that I think is still in the DNA of the bike. Clearly the actual MotoGP is doing performance in a slightly different way, so we need to find the right mix without losing the good point and make the weaker point stronger. So as I say, we need for sure go a little bit on the direction to use more the traction area, the combined braking area and all the stuff like the other bike. But yeah, cornering speed can be one of the direction that we can go to help a little bit the performance. Yeah.
And just finally, what does the final day look like? I guess teams up and down this paddock trying to make their final decisions. Ducati in particular, we've been speaking a lot about their engine decision coming into the season, which of course is a luxury that you don't have to worry about because you're still open in terms of engine development through the season until you lose those concessions, which I guess you're hoping to lose at some stage because it will be a reflection of your success. But where are you at with 1 day to go? Do you feel all the decisions that need to be made have been made, or is there still some more that you need to figure out tomorrow?
There are some major decision I think has been taken. We need maybe some confirmation tomorrow, but not on major details. As I say, we know we have to do more step forward, so for sure. But the job has been done from YMC, Yamaha Motor Company, during the winter time, as giving a little bit more covering of the gap, and I think it's been taken. All the components, almost all the components works. Not all, like us, but I would say that the major decision has been taken, yeah, more or less.
Thanks very much for joining us. Pleasure to talk to you. We wish you well for tomorrow and for the season upcoming. We'll be seeing plenty of you over the course of the year.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you very much. Max Bartolini, who's joining me, and we can now hear from Max's rider. Fabio Quartararo is ready to give his thoughts at the end of day one. He's speaking to Jack.
Well, Fabio, there was so much talk coming into here about the progress that Yamaha had made at Sepang after that first day. Has the improvement been confirmed here in Buriram?
Well, to be honest, I think that we have made some steps, but today I didn't felt any good with both tires, front soft and front medium. So basically I'm struggling a lot with the tires for this test, and hopefully tomorrow improve because we know it's the race tires. But yeah, I have not good feeling at all with any tires, so we have to figure out why.
That feeling you have, there's no support under braking, no turning. What's the feeling you're getting?
So basically, what I have with the medium, I don't have it with the soft, and also same, but with the soft and opposite. So both have some positive and negative, but it's the first time I think till long time that I have this feeling. So hopefully tomorrow we can fix the problem by track condition. But yeah, I'm struggling quite a lot.
Is this as a result of the changes that have been made over the winter, that now suddenly there's a slightly different feeling with tyres that you've been used to?
I don't think so. I think also the condition of the track are pretty worse than last year. We see also the top at the moment was 29.7. That basically last year was much faster. So we have to figure out why, and I think that today was good, but of course that by the front tire destroyed a little bit our day.
But despite that, all of the confidence, all of the momentum from Sepang, it's still there?
Well, we have to check tomorrow. Today we try many things, we make many laps, but like I said, the feeling was not completely good. Because I didn't feel any good with the tires, like I said, so we have to check tomorrow.
Just finally, I had the first chance today at lunchtime to watch the practice starts. Those Yamahas were starting pretty well. They sound a lot different now as well, but all of your starts looked pretty good. Is that an area where you feel a big improvement?
Well, we tried a different setup of electronic for the start. I didn't really like it, so we'll come back to our basic. Was good starts, but really difficult to manage. To gain something super small, you take a lot of risk. So I think that we will go with our base, small modification, but I think that tomorrow we will see.
Thanks, Fabio.
Thank you.
So not exactly the perfect day after what was a very successful Sepang test for Fabio Quartararo and Yamaha. I spent a bit of a time in pit lane actually around lunchtime, and he was looking quite exasperated and frustrated with what he was experiencing on the bike. He's just outlined clearly the problems we were having. He's putting that largely down to the front tyre he had on his Yamaha. Well, when we were with you on the Midday Live, if you were with us about 3 hours ago on MotoGP's social media channels, you will have seen the post scenes, if you like, of a crash for Fermin Aldeguer, the rookie who's had a very good start to life in MotoGP so far, winning some praise from Davide Tardozzi, no less, in Malaysia last week. Well, let's get his thoughts, not just on the crash, but on his day overall. Day one here in Sepang for Fermin, and he gave his thoughts to Jack.
Fermin, first day here on the MotoGP bike in Buriram. How did you find it?
A little bit more difficult than in Malaysia, but yeah, we can just stay happy because lap by lap I'm improving and also understand better the bike. Here the tires is different. The compound is to adapt also to this style, and nothing. We are working in our way with calm and looking only in myself.
Why was it more challenging today? What did you find most difficult?
This track is not my best because I have another riding style, but this morning I was going a little bit on the limit, on the break points. Also, it's important in this track take the reference and do always the same. And this morning for me doesn't easy. But with calm, we work and we arrive.
Last thing, the practice start session this afternoon. How close was that? I was watching on pit wall. You were facing down towards turn one. Next thing I knew, I was looking you in the eyes.
Yeah, the track is not so much clean on the straight, but yeah. I try to do my best and I do the slide, but more riders do this mistake, and yeah, we have to look and improve.
Thanks, Fermin.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was also right by pit wall when Fermin Aldeguer did that, and at one point I thought he was coming straight up the beak. He was heading in my direction when that practice start didn't exactly go as he had hoped, but the grid was a little bit dirty when they went out for those first practice starts earlier on in the day. That will clean up as we go through this test, and we will see 2 practice start sessions again tomorrow. First of all at 1 p.m. local time, and then again, sunset permitting, following the checker flag at 6 p.m. Well, let's get a word now from Fermin Aldeguer's team manager. Of course, it's been a successful winter so far on the whole for the Gresini team, with Fermin Aldeguer's adaptation to MotoGP, and Marc Marquez, who's been putting himself firmly in the dark horse category for 2025. Let's speak now to their team manager, Mikel Massini.
Mikel, last pre-season test here in Buriram, first day done. How was the day for Alex and for Fermin?
Yeah, so far was a positive, good day one here in Buriram. With Alex, we already confirmed the good feeling, the good shape that he has in Barcelona, in Sepang, and also here. We already try some different setup just to be ready for the test, to find a good base. And we are pretty confident that we still make a great job. Also, we still are difficult as a rookie the day one here in Buriram because everything is new. All to keep of the reference completely different between the previous Moto2 he rode. But I think that at the end of the day he find a good confidential with the package, and for sure we have to still improve him, but I like his approach to this category, step by step, always fit on the ground and keep focus on to don't make let me say a big mistake.
As you said, Alex continues to look in good form after the good test he had in Sepang. How confident are you for the beginning of the season? What can we expect from Alex?
I expect to continue to keep this mentality because I think that during the difficult moment in the last year and during the winter break, he worked a lot on himself, on the determination, on the motivation. I really look him very focused on the target that we have to achieve. We have to achieve the progress. We have to keep this progress ahead, and I think that we can make a great start of the season.
And for Fermin, we know how different it is to ride a MotoGP bike in a circuit like Sepang and then in a track like Buriram. How challenging is for him to adapt to the MotoGP in a different track like Buriram?
Yeah, now every time we go in a different track, we have to start, let me say, a new paper from zero because you have to learn everything. But we study a lot the data, the video, we compare the data with our Ducati rider. So his learning is really faster. He approaches the category, like I said before, in a really good way. So we have to give to him the right time to make the step by step in this category.
And finally, Tardozzi told us that it looks like Ducati are going to keep the 2024 engine for their factory team. How can this play out in the championship? What effect do you think this will have, because they will not have a new version of the engine?
Yeah, I think that it doesn't affect us because we know that we already have a really good package in the technical side. I mean, I think we have the best bike so far on the grid. For sure, the factory team will improve during this test and also in the first race, but we have to keep focus on our garage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Grazie. Grazie mille.
Thank you.
Luca Espagnol asking the questions there, Mikel Massini with the answers, and so far all the answers seem to paint a pretty positive picture for Gresini as we head into the new season. So with that in mind, let's head back to HQ in Barcelona once again and rejoin Elliot and Kiko. So Alex Marquez, dark horse for 2025. Discuss.
We will. Thank you very much. Very brief there, Lewis. We're going to discuss it. Look at the times on your screen, ladies and gentlemen. 1:29.527. That was Alex Marquez's qualifying time from 2024 at Buriram. Now, his practice time, which is slightly more indicative of perhaps where we can compare, was a 29.613. And after just one day, and one day at a track in different conditions, obviously with the GP24 as well, 29.649. He's already on last year's pace.
Exactly. This is why we picked this out. He's not gone quicker so far, but in worse conditions that we've seen today. Obviously, we've seen Marc go to the top of the timings in the evening conditions, yes. Cooler temperatures, so better conditions. Not quite accurate, still quick nonetheless, of course. But this was interesting because we heard from Mikel Massini there. He hit the ground running in Barcelona test, was nearly 4 tenths quicker than anyone back in Barcelona. Sepang test, he was quick on all 3 days, ended that test quick as well. Less than a tenth off the all-time lap record set by Pecco Bagnaia in Q2. And then he's come to Buriram, a different circuit. So 3 different circuits, 3 different types of conditions, and he's hit the ground running straight from the off. And to be so close to what he was able to achieve in Q2 in better conditions in qualifying in Buriram straight from the off, really impressive, and just shows how comfortable Alex Marquez is. And it's enabling them to try different setups to get him even more comfortable than he already is.
Mikel Massini said in another interview, not this one that you've just seen, but one over in the midday live that Jack and Lewis hosted, that tomorrow, day 2, it's where the time attack, it's where the sprint simulations, maybe even a Grand Prix simulation is going to take place. If he's on this pace already, it's promising.
I can't wait to see how he stacks up compared to his brother Marc Marquez, because that's a very interesting dynamic, a great dynamic for us to get stuck into. But just compared to the factory boys of Pecco and Marc, the fastest of the GP24s this pre-season has been Alex Marquez. Franco Morbidelli has also been very, very fast as well. Tomorrow, there's plenty of storylines to obviously keep our eyes on, but a big one will be how quick is Alex Marquez and Franco Morbidelli compared to Pecco Bagnaia and Marc Marquez on the GP25 spec bikes compared to the GP24 spec bikes. Really, really intrigued to see how close Alex Marquez can get to those boys, or how much further ahead he is as well.
And it's really important to note, actually, that we will have another day of action on Friday of the Grand Prix. So this is a good base already for someone like Alex Marquez, who's in that familiar environment. He's not one of the riders that changes. He's actually one of the riders that stays put but gets new material to work from. It's all the stars are aligning.
They are, and we've mentioned it a few times. The guys at the circuit as well have. This is a great opportunity for the likes of Alex Marquez and Franco Morbidelli to really start the season strong, while the GP25 bikes of Pecco and Marc are still trying to figure out the best setup, which way they want to go in terms of engine. It looks like they're going to go with the 24. So it's a great opportunity for Alex Marquez and Franco Morbidelli to hit the ground running on a bike they know, especially Morbidelli, of course, who is used to the GP24 last year. But for Alex Marquez, who is clearly so much more comfortable than he was on the 23, to hit the ground running and be in that title chase early doors, and then from there, see where he goes.
Franco Morbidelli finished second, actually, in the second session, 6.83. So keep an eye on Franco Morbidelli in these early stages of the year, and actually throughout day 2 in testing at Buriram. Talking of which, we can head back to the track, and I think we're ready and waiting with Lewis Suddery. Yes, he is. He's blending into the Buriram darkness. Over to you, Lewis.
Yeah, thanks very much, Kiko. Thanks very much for now, Elliot. We'll be back with you a little bit later on, but we're going to turn our attentions now to Aprilia. Now, of course, the story of Aprilia's pre-season testing was written on the very first day, the very first morning, when they lost Jorge Martin for the rest of pre-season testing due to injury. Now, of course, he's recuperating well and hoping to be back for the first Grand Prix. Almost certainly will be at the first Grand Prix of the season. That is certainly at least their intention, but it does leave Marco Bezzecchi, as far as the factory race team, going it alone for this test here in Buriram. Lorenzo Savadori is here too, lending his expertise to try and guide Aprilia in the right direction. But Marco Bezzecchi is carrying a lot of the slack, and earlier on he also gave us his thoughts. These were Marco Bezzecchi's comments a little bit earlier on when he spoke to Jack.
Well, Marco, firstly, it was nearly the worst possible start this morning. I was stood watching you come out of the box, and that was pretty close.
Yeah, it was a big risk. I didn't expect at all, but I wanted so much to go in the track that I started really happy from the pit box, and I didn't expect such a big risk. Maybe the pit lane was still a bit dirty, but fortunately I'm safe still.
After that, it seemed everything calmed down. How was the first morning for you?
Yeah, it was a positive morning. After the scare in the beginning, I calmed down and we started to work. we started again from where we was in Sepang. And to be honest, I'm quite satisfied about the morning. We tried some new items. We still need to try something. But day by day I feel a little bit better on the bike. So this for sure helps to ride in a better way.
Even in the first morning, it looked as though your rhythm, your pace seems quite competitive really early on.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I honestly didn't saw the pace from the other riders, but about myself, I felt good. I tried the tires. I tried both medium and soft in the rear, and I was quite competitive with both. So yeah, can't complain.
This
overall.
has been one of Aprilia's most challenging circuits, in particular the first part with the really heavy braking zones. How have you found how challenging it is in those areas, and is that evident from Sepang, at the place where Aprilia need to work most?
Yeah, already in Sepang we had some issues in braking. Let's say that the bike has a very good front stability, but the rear end of the bike in braking is a bit too aggressive and shaking a bit too much. This track is helpful for sure to work on this problem, because it's full of hard braking. And to be honest, we are making some steps. Of course, it's also by myself that I have to understand better how to ride the bike. This afternoon I understood something that I liked, but still I need some more time on the bike. So hopefully these 2 days will give me nice sensation to be able to understand even more and be able to ride the bike in the best way possible.
Just finally, first opportunity for me to watch the practice starts this afternoon. It was interesting to see the different manufacturers. For you, how does the Aprilia compare to the Ducati off the line?
I felt good with my bike in the start. The first day in Sepang we had many issues in the start, but with Stefano and Luca we worked very well, and during the days in Sepang we improved, and now we have a good base. Today I tried for the first time with the full fuel tank like in the race, and was quite good, to be honest. So yeah, hopefully we can gain something more.
Thanks, Marco.
Yeah, history indicates that this is not necessarily the strongest circuit for Aprilia. They haven't finished in the top 6 here in a full-length dry Grand Prix, and the first half of this lap, especially as you heard from Jack there in the interview with Marco, a lot of straight up and down braking, a lot of heavy acceleration as well. And the Aprilia really does its best work through the corners. It corners as well as any motorcycle on the planet. And you heard Marco Bezzecchi there outlining his feeling under braking, where the front end may be very, very strong, but the rear is still moving around a little bit as he's trying to get that Aprilia slowed down for the corners. You might remember a year or two ago, Maverick Vinales coming here and constantly overshooting some of the hairpins at the end of long straights. Well, a rider who previously was on an Aprilia, now on a Yamaha, is Miguel Oliveira, who of course has swapped the blue of Trackhouse for the blue and purple of Pramac. Let's get his thoughts at the end of day one here in Buriram.
Yeah, his view of our screen showing off just how magnificent he looks on after the flag. Unfortunately, it's been blocked.
Yeah,
but
blocked.
Don't worry, I've been told by the guys in the studio that you're looking great, Miguel.
Thanks. Thank you.
Did you feel as good as you look today? What a great first question.
That's funny. Yeah, that's a great first question. To be an easy answer, no. But yeah, we're working on it. Had an eventful afternoon with a couple of problems with with the runs. Not everything went smoothly, but we could recover some time at the end and try to be a little bit more in place to start tomorrow.
6 days in Sepang, I think, allowed you to really feel comfortable with the bike. Was today on a new track with difficult track conditions a better idea of where Yamaha are at in the pecking order?
Yeah, for sure. As the track was getting better, we let's say the conditions were kind of suiting a little bit more our bike, but it was not an easy start for sure. But I think that's going to be much more a reality situation, and to start the Grand Prix weekend with a fresh track with no reference, for sure it's going to be a little bit more work to do between sessions to try to come into the afternoon a little bit more competitive.
Just finally, there's going to be a lot of practice starts made throughout the course of today and tomorrow. How does the Yamaha compare up against the Aprilia?
Well, I think I'm getting the grip with the starts. I've been, pretty much just trying the start in a kind of race condition. I wanted to. We tried with the sprint configuration this morning, but with very used tires, as you might seen. A couple of us were just spinning up the straight. So this afternoon with the with the fresher tire was better. So I think we are relatively competitive with the start. So we just need to not have a very long straight afterwards.
Thanks, Miguel.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Miguel Oliveira, who, kind himself pretty happy with how the work is going so far, although clearly something in the water at Pramac, both Jack and Miguel seemingly under the weather ever so slightly. But Miguel Oliveira and Jack Miller continuing to add to this huge bank of information that Yamaha are able to draw upon in 2025. It really is going to accelerate their progress as they look to move back up the order, even accounting for what appears to have been a slightly more difficult day today than they experienced in Malaysia. Well, one of the big stories coming into the Sepang test from an injury point of view was the return of Raul Fernandez. Of course, Jorge Martin and Fabio Di Gianantonio are still absent through injury, but Raul Fernandez has travelled to Buriram. He was out on track today, so how was he feeling? Let's get his immediate thoughts now with Jack.
So, Raul, first day on track after the surgery. First of all, how did you feel?
Right now, too tired. I mean, I feel lucky because I am here. We did a lot of lab, we take a lot of information, so it is the important thing. At the end, we cannot to come directly to the race with no information. If not, we will spend 2 races minimum to understand the bike, the new people in the team. So for me, it was the best choice that we make it to think to come here. And after that, today was a positive day. It's true, especially on the left curve, was quite difficult to manage well. Especially because I couldn't put well the feet. For some reason, I cannot use a natural position on the bike because I have two fingers broken in the left feet. So it was the worst thing. But for the race, I feel good. I feel fit. It's true that I am a little bit tired, but it is the first day for me on a MotoGP bike.
Yeah, how important was for you to come to this test, knowing that the first race is taking place also here, so that hopefully in 2 weeks' time, when the first GP comes, you are already adapted, no, to the new bike?
For me, it was super important. Yes, when we end the surgery, I was thinking on come here directly. It's true that looks like that I am crazy, no, but at the end, we cannot start the season with a no test day. If we start the season with no test and with no info on the bike, it will be difficult to arrive well to the first race, because at the end it's important. Everybody are super fast and you need time to understand the new bike. The new bike is positive. I saw a very positive thing on the bike, but we need time to understand. So it was the reason for or because I am here, no? Because I need time.
And for tomorrow, do you have any specific plan? Do you plan to test any new thing, or just trying to feel
right
comfortable
now,
on the bike?
Right now, I'm thinking on be relaxed. Maybe tomorrow morning, in some hours, I will see what is the best way for tomorrow. But I believe on my team, they will prepare the best plan for tomorrow. The maximum that I can do for them, I will try to do, but we will see later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've got to take your hat off to Raul Fernandez for riding through the pain. That was Luca Marini asking the questions. One person who is definitely now ready to speak to our own Jack Appleyard is the fastest rider of the day, the 93, Marc Marquez, live now with Jack.
Mark, do you remember the last time you finished a day of pre-season fastest? Jerez 2020. So does that mean that the 2020, the 2019 mark is starting to show again?
I mean, already in Malaysia I feel quite good, especially in the last day in the afternoon. I start to find something that I start to ride in a better way. Today here I start and straight away I felt good with that base. Then we start to try a few different things because we are working in a factory team, so it means that we are putting that new evolutions on the bike and try to test and try to retest yeah, and now in the end I come back to my base in the end of the day, and yeah, the lap time arrived, but at the moment it's not the most important. The important is that I go out and the feeling it's good.
That lap time, how close to the limit were you with it?
I push. Yeah, I mean, of course, to lead a day in a MotoGP, you need to push. So yeah, I had the time attack configuration. So yeah, I pushed just to understand. It's true that yeah, I was also testing one front tire that I tested in the middle of the day, but I was not sure between both compounds we have. And yeah, very similar, but let's see tomorrow if we can continue in the same way.
Davide said earlier that today was the day to make a decision. He was leaning towards the 2024 engine. Has a decision been made on which engine you use next year?
Yeah, tomorrow we have the last test, the last day, but looks like it's going on 2024 direction. But let's see, let's wait, because Ducati sometimes tomorrow arrive with a new schedule, but at the moment they are working super hard to try to find or to understand which is the best base. And as I say in Malaysia, we have a very good base starting from 2024. So we need to be very, 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 very sure that 25 is better. But looks like the 24 version is working a bit better and more consistent.
Just finally, on some of the practice starts we've seen today and throughout Sepang as well, looks as though it's been taking you some time to find that rhythm and find that sweet spot with the starts. What are the challenges you've been facing so far?
Yeah, I'm struggling a bit on that starts. We are working on it, and yeah, in fact this afternoon I start to feel better. I start to be on a good lap times on that start, but this morning were a disaster. So it's one of the weak points that we need to keep working.
Thanks, Marc.
Thank you.
Yeah, we were on pit wall watching those practice starts, and they looked it at the time. Thanks to Marc and thanks to Jack, and huge thanks to Enea Bastianini for sparing a couple of minutes to come and join us. You're one day of testing away from your debut with KTM. How ready do you feel for the new season?
Yeah, I think we need to work. We need to work. This morning I was a bit frustrated, I have to be honest, but this afternoon we are working in the correct direction, and my speed it's come lap by lap, and at the end I did a good lap. I'm not ready at the 100% because I need to be much comfort for the future and trying to do some modify also my setup, okay, but my riding style, because I need to change this bike is so different from Ducati, and I have to do this step.
Yeah, just finally, what are the issues that you're struggling with the most on board the KTM, and how difficult is it to try and teach your brain to ride a bike in a completely different way? Because every MotoGP season you've been in so far, you've ridden a Ducati. This is your first year on something else. How difficult is it to not ride the bike like a Ducati?
Yeah, exactly. It's my first changes. I did 4 consecutive years with Ducati, and this is my first time with a new bike. And but the KTM, it's complicated, but it's exactly the opposite of Ducati. The strongest point are the opposite, and well, it's so difficult. But I think for the race I will be not at the 100%, but maybe I can be ready.
But enjoying the challenge. We wish you well tomorrow, exactly. The final day of the test, and we certainly hope to see you up at the sharp end over the course of the season. Enea Bastianini joining us live. We can also now head to hear from another Italian. Let's hear now live from Frankie Morbidelli before we go. Well, we were hoping to hear from Frankie Morbidelli. He's ready. We'll be ready to hop across and join him in just a moment. And Enea Bastianini there, as he mentioned, he's pretty much admitted, hasn't he? He's not going to be going into the new season anywhere near his peak of his powers on board that KTM, so still an awful long way to go. before he's ready. We couldn't quite hear from Frankie Morbidelli, but to be keeping the Italian theme going in these final minutes, we can hear from his compatriot, Luca Marini, who broke into the 29s today. So how happy is Luca both of this first day here in Buriram?
Hello, Luca. First day of the test done here in Buriram. How did you feel?
Well, I think a little improvement compared to Sepang. Today the bike, we were able to make good changes and it was a little bit better. Still, there is a long way to the point that we want to arrive, to the gap with the first, but I think we are doing a good job. We need to keep working like this. Tomorrow will be another important day to see very well our potential when everybody will push for a time attack and for sure also a race simulation.
Is there any specific area where you're looking to improve especially?
Yeah, different ones. Yeah.
Can you tell us?
No, in general.
No, just in general?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have any specific plan for tomorrow, maybe a sprint, race simulation?
Yeah, exactly. This time attack in the morning and then a race simulation at the correct time of the race, because here is always super hot at 2 o'clock, so we have to take care also this, try to understand the temperature of the tires, how to manage this during the race. That is always super important.
And there's only 1 day left of testing before the season gets underway. How close or how far are you from having the setup ready for the first race?
No, the setting now I think after today is quite clear. We made the correct moves. Today just was focused on this, especially on the setting, not developing more the bike because we spent a lot of time in Sepang, so today was more focusing on the performance and try to bring out everything, all the potential of the bike, all the package that we have now. So for tomorrow we will just make a few changes, but very, very little things.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to Luca Marini. Speaking of Luca Espanyol there, who joined the 129 club today, although by the time we got to the end of the day, the lap times had very much gone from the mid to high 29s to the low 29s, or certainly if your name is Marc Marquez. But from Luca Marini's point of view, we spoke about it briefly on the midday live. Whilst there are still clear flaws from a Honda point of view, single lap pace is less of a flaw than perhaps it was a year ago.
Yes, that's not a bad lap time from Luca, especially when you look at when he did it in the day. It was around 2-3 hours into the start of the day, which means that track temperatures were arguably as high as they've been all day, and for him to get to within a quarter of a second, 0.3 of a second of Honda's best ever lap around here, I think he'll be quite pleased with that, and I expect him to go a little bit quicker tomorrow as well. So not a bad day overall for Honda.
Well, before we go, let's get the full story from the factory Ducati team. We've already heard from today's pace setter Marc Marquez. Now let's hear from his teammate Pecco Bagnaia. He spoke to us a few months ago.
Pecco, I think today was another opportunity to make the decision between the engine. That is one of the most important things you have to do here in the test.
Yeah, first of all, we have to say that wasn't our best lucky day. We had many issues all the days, and we didn't had time and chance to make proper choice. So every time I was entering, I was having some problems, and honestly, wasn't a very clear and easy day. But luckily, we have tomorrow, hoping to don't have any rain because we are a bit far from being happy, and we had to understand what happened today because anything was working well. So let's see tomorrow, hoping that we could improve a bit. And luckily, we have marked that everything was fine for him. So this is something that helped us to be more confident because in our side of the garage, anything was set.
Tardozzi just told us that the decision is going more on the 2024 way.
Not the bike, but the engine at the moment. Just because we don't want to take a huge risk going with a new engine. It's true that it's not that bad considering the performance, but we don't have enough time to set it, and will be better to continue testing tomorrow. But we are moving a bit more on the side of the GP24.
And finally, Pecco, we saw you not having the ideal practice start. Is also another key point to improve tomorrow.
Like I said before, today anything was working. So also the practice start, the clutch. So I was quite not nervous, but honestly, when you see and you are part of a day like this, you just want to let it finish and try to restart again from zero, because the feeling wasn't good. No, the feeling was good, but we had many issues today.
Thank you very much, Pecco. We do one in Italian, please.
Very interesting stuff that, wasn't it, from Pecco Bagnaia. We'll dissect that quickly before we go in just a moment. But first of all, back to Barcelona for some closing thoughts. Guys, what are we looking forward to? What are we looking out for on the final day of this Buriram test and indeed of pre-season testing?
I'll tell you what we're looking out for. Pecco's smile. Where's that gone since Sepang? That was a disastrous interview if ever I've seen one. Pecco, what's unhappy camper? Translate as in Italian. He's not happy. We suspected he wanted to go more to the GP25 side. Now they're going to the GP24 side, El. He was saying a lot there without saying too much, but not happy is what I can digest from it.
No, there's your headline from day one of the Buriram test. We're not at all happy, especially compared to Marc Marquez's side as well. That's an interesting story to follow on tomorrow, because he was not happy at all there, was the two-time MotoGP champion. Looking forward to tomorrow though, mate. Really buzzing to get stuck into race sims, time attacks. We're going to really see where everyone stacks up compared to each other. We heard Luca Marini say it there as well. This is the day tomorrow where everyone is going to push 100% in the race sim / sprint sim and in qualifying mode. So really can't wait to wake up tomorrow and see where everyone's in the timesheets and see what stories can unfold from there.
Going to be a belter, that is for certain. Don't forget, the conversation doesn't stop here. Get your questions, get your comments, get your thoughts in, and have your say. That's all for MotoGP HQ in Barcelona. Back to Buriram for what I suggest will be a very fun chat between you two guys about that Ducati situation. Not all happy in red.
No, it certainly isn't. Certainly in one half of the Ducati camp, at least. Of course, it is the big talking point, the big story over the course of the winter. Bagnaia versus Marquez in the factory Ducati team. Polar opposite interviews there between the two teammates. Marquez happy enough, Bagnaia on his back foot.
Yeah, from getting the chance to speak to Marc Marquez there was just a real aura, just oozing confidence there. You can just tell, I know it sounds stupid, just the way in which he was stood and was just ready to not sort of big up his performances too much because it's only pre-season, but he knew that today was psychologically a bit of a blow to everyone else. The fact that late on he was able to go out and put in that lap, and in particular, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. We know how much Marc Marquez likes to get a stranglehold of teams, likes to play those mind games. If he's looked over to the other side of the box and seen that Bagnaia was having all kinds of troubles with different items, different parts.
Give me a soft tyre.
He went, guys, stick a soft in this. I'm going to make sure I rub salt in the wounds. Would not surprise me one bit. And today, it's quite clear that Bagnaia is playing catch-up because Marquez certainly feels as though he is ready to go and race tomorrow. And if we were, which is obviously a question that isn't going to happen, but if we were to race tomorrow, there's only going to be one winner of that race, and it's Marc Marquez, I have to say. Also, just very quickly, we've not barely touched on him. Want to give a shout out very quickly, Bezzecchi today. Very, very good. A couple of people that are out watching who know their stuff said that looked like Marco Bezzecchi on a bike today. We'd not seen it for a while, couldn't get his head around this new rear tyre last year. The Bez of old is back.
Third quickest for him today, and not only will Marco Bezzecchi be pleased with what he saw today, but Jorge Martin, the reigning world champion sitting at home, will also be pretty pleased. We'll be sitting at home thinking, hey, don't forget about me in this conversation about what we're going to see in 2025. Well, make sure you're with us tomorrow, midday live once again, 3 p.m. local time, myself and Jack live on MotoGP social media channels to bring you the very latest from Buriram, 5:30 local time, 30 minutes before the checkered flag comes out and the sun sets here in Thailand. We'll be live for After the Flag for 90 minutes of reaction and analysis, the final day of pre-season testing, and plenty of stories still to be told. We'll see you tomorrow.